So he has this thing called his theory, known as what he calls superwave theory. And he says that he was able to study, I guess when he was getting his PhD or something, years ago, many, many years ago, he was able to get basically the ice core samples that other scientists had before him that they've already studied and were done with for what they were researching. And basically he was allowed to go over that stuff for himself. And he found some interesting cycles. 3 cycles he found in the ice core sample, I believe going back a few 100,000 years ago, maybe 100 or 200,000 years ago. So that's a significant amount of data to look at an ice core sample. And he found that there's 3 cycles that occur. In these 3 cycles, he says there's some kind of energy or particles from space. It doesn't come from anywhere in our solar system, no planets, no sun, nothing. It comes from deep in the center or around the center of the galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy. And every so often we line up with whatever it is, and it is, bombarding whatever, beaming the Earth with these particles. And he says that, again, they know that because they're not found on any planets in our solar system, only periodically. And he found the exact 3 cycles that occur and reoccur over and over and over again, right on the money. And when he mentioned the days or the years, I said, that's interesting. Cycle number 1, or I don't know which one's number 1, it doesn't matter, because they always happen with the same frequency anyways. Every 26,000 years, approximately, when our scientists study the ice core samples, the way they do it and the technology we do it with is only so good for where we are technologically speaking. So when they're going back tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, the margin of error is right around 400 years. It could be about 400 years wrong. That's not bad when you're going thousands of years. Who cares about 400 years, right? So he finds a cycle at approximately 26,000 years. I said, well, wait a minute. That is the precession of the equinox, which, in other words, all the ages that we have, the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, all that stuff, each of those ages is 2,160 years. Times 12, because there's 12 of them, gives you the grand 26,000 year cycle, approximately. So by the time we do the whole precession, it's 26,000 years. That's the grand 26,000 year cycle so many people talk about. The other cycle he mentions is approximately 11,500 years, which comes up a lot when you research ancient stuff. You'll hear that year, 11,500 years ago. Atlantis was supposedly around 11,500 years ago. There's all these stories of these great civilizations, one being Atlantis, that was around 11,500 years ago, which is coincidentally one of the other cycles he found. And then the third and final cycle he found is 5,125 years. On 2012, December 21st, 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, when it ends and then starts new for another 5,125 6-year cycle, if you go back from 2012 and just 2 years from now, and you go back 5,125 years, you are exactly at day 1 of when the Mayan calendar was created. So, and another thing is, if you do 5 times 5, or 5 times 5,125, you still come up with the same 26,000 year cycle. So 5 of those cycles will equal the grand 26,000 year cycle. And what he said was interesting. He says it doesn't matter which one of those cycles that we're on, because sometimes he would look at the 5,125 year cycle and would see a lot of that particles from space. Then again, he'd go down and see one of the cycles where it wasn't that much. And then he'd see one where the 11,500 year cycle is. And then he'd see one where the 26,000 year cycle was kind of high, or higher than the other 2 cycles next to it. And all he said is, all I can tell you is that some are worse than others. And there's no rhyme or reason that I can figure out of which ones will be worse than the others. Something's going to happen, but we don't know how bad or how powerful it will be. It could be a powerful one, it could be a weak one. We don't know. Nor do we know what it's going to cause as far as destruction cycles. He did say, the way you will know that we are aligning with this energy and it's coming back and it's starting to bombard our solar system from deep in outer space by the galactic center of the galaxy, is that prior to the super wave is a gravitational wave that will be on the front of it that precedes it. And once that hits our solar system, our sun will react strangely to it, just a pure reaction, which of course in turn causes the planets, like our own planet, to also respond in activity, earthquake activity specifically. So he said earthquake activity of notable earthquakes, not the little babies, are going to increase when we align with this thing and we get the very outward part of this wave coming in, which will be the gravity wave hitting us first. And then after that, the super wave hits. When the super wave hits, he says it doesn't actually do anything. It's not like this wave is hitting Earth and then the Earth's shaking or anything. It's nothing like that. It just causes the sun to have extremely weird and violent reactions, which again, in turn, causes the planets to react violently as well. And he said that's the only way you'll know, because it's traveling at the speed of light. It'll be like flicking a switch. It just hits. Except for the gravity wave. You'll know because the gravity wave will be there first. So having said all that, looking at this chart I just showed you on the USGS site, we're pretty much on par for double what's normal. And is it coincidence that for the first time ever since they've been recording, because even this thing says they take data back to 1900, and on average, going back to 1900, 15 or so, whatever it was, is the average for 7.0 or higher per year. So now, as of 2010, we basically are going to probably double it or go significantly over it, to say the least, because we're still got 6 more months to go to the end of the year, basically. And we're currently heading there. So it's been a couple of days ago, there was a 7.2. Then there was a 7.1, which was downgraded to a 6.9 on some servers. Other places still left it as a 7.1. A few days before that, we had another 7 point something. I mean, these are days apart. They shouldn't be days apart when there's only 15 per year. And as the webbot mentioned, after we get past the halfway point of 2010, past July, you will see an increase in the large damaging earthquakes. These little sevens that are happening, they're not talking about those. They're expecting damaging earthquakes. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. Something to think about, as well as put in the back of your mind, just in case you're thinking about preparing for such an event, buying extra food, doing that whole thing. Wouldn't be a bad idea. So, just wanted to share that with you. Talk to you guys later.